Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. This is the match preview for Bournemouth versus Manchester United in the Premier League, and it's a huge game for Manchester United. As we know, still in the race for top four, 3 points vital. Let's get into it. So as we know, Manchester United are coming off the back of a very positive win against Wolves last weekend, but there's still work to be done in relation to the top four race. 6 points really needed to guarantee the top four spot, and you know, it's not going to be an easy game against Bournemouth, given the fact that United's away form this season has not really been that good. In fact, it's been very, very poor. So United have all the work to do. It's crunch time, 3 games to go, 6 points really needed to confirm top four, like we said. And it's going to be, I'm not going to say a difficult game, but it's not going to be an easy game against Bournemouth. United have work to do, like I said, between now and the end of the season. We want to finish in the top four. We want the attraction of Champions League football going into the transfer window in the summer. Obviously, you want to be attracting the top players. So we need to get the job done. Now, one of the most important things, in my opinion, that's going to occur this weekend is in relation to Manchester United's defence and how, I suppose, resolute we can be. We know our record away from home hasn't been good this season. I think we haven't beaten anybody in the top 9 in the Premier League this season away from home, which is, quite a startling statistic. But I suppose in general throughout the whole season, Manchester United's defence has been quite good. Now, we've had isolated incidents, the 5 goals against City, the 7 against Liverpool, where we've had, very poor defensive performances. But I think on the whole, Manchester United's defence has been quite good this season. David De Gea, we know, is guaranteed to at least share the Golden Glove this season. I think if he gets one more, he's guaranteed it. And I think the fact that Varane is coming back from injury, we seen him come on last week against Wolves. He played 80 minutes and, he done quite well. And I suppose the main goal for him is, to get as much game time as he possibly can, maybe before an FA Cup final against Manchester City. But again, the top 4 race is vital. So I think defence is going to be very important. If we can keep a clean sheet, obviously it's going to give us a really good platform to go on and hopefully score some goals and get 3 points. Now, where the goal's going to come from, we know that Marcus Rashford was injured for last week's game against Wolves, albeit we did score goals without him. Now, throughout the whole course of the season, United tend to not win games when Rashford doesn't score. So he's carried a lot of that weight on his shoulders this season, and he's carried it quite well, in my opinion. Now, we've seen Garnacho has come back. He got the goal last week. Great return from his injury. So is it going to be Rashford or is it going to be Garnacho? Obviously, we'll do my predicted 11 in a moment or two, but I have a feeling Rashford is probably not going to be risked as a starter in this game, given the fact that we obviously got an FA Cup final coming up, and I know Ten Hag doesn't look too far ahead when it comes to games, and top 4 is the first priority at the moment. But I think we've seen with a couple of injuries to certain players throughout the season that Ten Hag doesn't tend to throw him directly back in. Varane, probably being the exception to that rule last week, came straight back into the starting lineup. But goals are going to be very important. Bruno Fernandes, Anthony, Garnacho if he plays. Martial got a goal last week. Let's hope he can potentially continue that goal scoring trend. But goals are going to be important for the run-in for the remainder of the season. Now, let's talk about Bournemouth. Obviously, I think they're 14th in the Premier League at the moment. Their season is basically over. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to get into Europe. I don't think they're even going to get into the top half of the table. So what kind of Bournemouth are we going to see? Are we going to see a Bournemouth who potentially are kind of have got one foot on the beach already, thinking about their holidays? Look, Bournemouth have had a decent season, but they're an average team. You would be expecting Manchester United to go out and beat them. Again, our home record, we've mentioned it already, is maybe is what's worrying Manchester United fans and me more than anything else. But look, I think we should have more than enough to get the job done against Bournemouth. Let's hope they have the kind of mentality where they're already on their holidays and they're just looking to get the games out of the way because their season is basically over. So I think Manchester United should have more than enough to get over Bournemouth on Saturday. Now, let's get into our predicted 11 for the game against Bournemouth. Now, when we're talking about the back five, obviously, I think it's straightforward given how well we played last week, and this is the back five that I'm going with. Obviously, David De Gea is in the goal, Wan-Bissaka at right back, Luke Shaw back out to left back now that Varane is back, and I think he'll partner Lindelof again at centre back. Good performance last week out of this back five. Obviously, a clean sheet. Good to have Varane back. Played 80 minutes. Obviously, we're going to try and get as much game time into him as possible to make sure that he's ready. Well, obviously, not only for this run-in, because he's vital in that, but also the FA Cup final against Man City at the start of June. Now, when it comes to midfield, again, look, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the midfield is back to maybe the settled midfield that we had after the World Cup, that kind of run between December and maybe late February. Again, midfield of Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, in my opinion, this is the best midfield that we have. I think maybe Fred has been used quite smartly off the bench the last couple of weeks. He come on against Wolves and done really well. Give us that energy and that work rate in the the final stages of a game, especially if we have a lead and we're looking to defend it like Ten Hag did. We were 1-0 up when we brought on Fred, so I think he gives that energy. But look, this midfield is by far our best midfield, so I think that's what we're going to end up with against Bournemouth on Saturday. Now, when it comes to the front three, again, this may or not be the case, but this is what I think may happen. And I'm going with a front three of Garnacho on the left, Antony on the right, and Martial through the middle. I think, obviously, there's the debate whether Rashford should start or not. He's just back from an injury. He hasn't missed a long time. He's only been out for a week. So, you would hope that the injury is not too serious. But I think with this front three, I think you're not forcing Rashford back into the team too quickly. Obviously, we want to keep him as fit as possible between now and the end of the season. You don't want any injuries to, reoccur. But I think you could easily swap Garnacho with Rashford. And I think Garnacho has been, throughout the entirety of this season nearly, has been quite effective off the bench. I think when he does start, maybe he hasn't been as effective, and obviously he's very young. I mean, we have to remember he's only 18 years of age. But great goal last week. He's probably full of confidence. I would have no issue if he does start, but equally I would be just as comfortable with him off the bench and Rashford starting. And I think if that is the case, and either one of them to come on as a substitute after 60 or 70 minutes, I think it's quite a positive thing. Antony on the right, I think, is pretty much a mainstay there. I don't see anyone really challenging him. Jadon Sancho, everybody knows my opinions on Jadon Sancho. I don't think he's given enough to this team throughout the season. And Martial through the middle, obviously he scored last week. So let's hope he's full of confidence and can kick on and maybe get another goal. Now, if we're going with a score prediction for the game, I've said it already. I think United should have enough to get the job done here against Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a mid-table team. Season is basically over. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to get into the top half of the table. Let's hope United can put them to the sword. I think a goal early is important. Like I always say, the longer United go without a goal, the more jittery they tend to get. But again, I think we should have enough to get the job done. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win to Manchester United. Again, our clean sheets have been quite impressive this season. Varane is back, settled back four now. Wan-Bissaka, right back, who I didn't mention yet, has been playing really well. What a great season he's had. Basically, he was being written off at the start of the season as his United career being over. So I'm really happy with him. Luke Shaw's had a great season at left back as well. Hopefully we can get a clean sheet. I think there's goals in the team. Not an awful lot, but we've seen last week against Wolves, other players besides Marcus Rashford chipping in with goals. Anthony Martial, and of course the kid Garnacho. So I'm going with a 2-0 win, guys. Let me know your score predictions in the comment section below. Let me know your predicted 11 also, and what way you think the game is going to go. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and we'll see you for the watch along on Saturday. Take it easy.